Good afternoon and thanks for joining us here on Midday Live. I am Wendy Laya. Headlines this afternoon. President Akufo-Addo constitutes 9-member commission of inquiry to advise on how to proceed with the creation of new regions. Chamber of Consumer Protection describes decision by LPG marketers to embark on major repairs as a form of strike. And coming up on the international front, Security and Civil Protection Minister in Togo says 4 people were killed on Wednesday in clashes between security forces and demonstrators. We have details of these stories and many others, plus business, sports and entertainment in the next 1 hour. Do stay with us. President Akufo-Addo has inaugurated a 9-member commission of inquiry to see to the creation of at least 5 new districts. The commission is chaired by the retired Supreme Court Judge Justice S.A. Brobe. The commission of inquiry is expected to tour the Volta, Bono Ahafo, Northern and Western regions to gather the necessary information for the exercise.
Pioneers in a new aspect of our constitutional governance, and like all worthy pioneers, we're required to chart a good course that will guide future generations in their decisions. It has become clear to me that one of the most fundamental demands of our people is naturally to live in a thriving economy which provides opportunities for all. The desire has found expression in several forms. One such form is for the reorganization of our regional governance structure to enable government come closer to the people and thereby facilitate the rapid development of our nation and its economy. During my recent visits with the chiefs and peoples of Western and Northern regions, I reiterated that the success or otherwise of the creation of proposed new regions rests squarely on the inhabitants of the areas who have submitted petitions and made demands. The next step of the process is that I must appoint a commission of inquiry, which I have done by constitutional instrument number 105, gazetted on Thursday, 12th October 2017. I now have the pleasure to inaugurate the 9-member commission of inquiry to inquire into the need and substantial demand and to make recommendations on all the factors involved in the creation of a region or alteration of regional boundaries.
And so staying on this story, inaugurating the Commission of Inquiry, the President spelled out the terms of reference of the Commission.
The terms of reference of the Commission of Inquiry are set out in paragraph 4 of CI 105 as follows. A. To inquire, pursuant to the petitions, into the need and substantial demand for the creation of new regions, and thereby the alteration of Western region, Bono Ahafo region, Northern region, and Volta region. B. To make recommendations to the President based on its findings on the creation of a region or alteration of regional boundaries. And C. To specify the issues to be determined by referendum and the places where the referendum should be held, where it makes recommendations for the creation of new regions and alteration of regional boundaries.
All right, so to bring you a breakdown of what exactly the creation of the new district is, let's look at the Constitution first. And Chapter 5 of the 1992 Constitution, we have, subject to the provisions of this article, the President may, by constitutional instruments, that's one, creates a new region, two, alter the boundaries of a region, or provide for the measure of two or more regions. Again, if the President, upon a petition being presented to him and on the advice of the Council of State, is satisfied that there is a substantial demand for A, the creation of a new region, that's B, the alteration of the boundaries of a region, whether or not the alteration involves the creation of a new region, or the measure of two or more regions, he shall, acting on accordance with the advice of the Council of State, appoints a commission of inquiry to inquire into the demand and to make recommendations on the factors involved in the creation, alteration, or measure. And we're talking about the new regions which we're looking at creating as a country. And if, notwithstanding that a petition has not been presented to him, the President is, on the advice of the Council of State, satisfied that there's a need, has arisen for taking any of the steps referred to in paragraphs A, B, and C of clause 1 of this very article, he may, acting in accordance with the advice of the Council of State, appoint a commission of inquiry to inquire into the need and to make recommendations on all the factors involved in the creation, alteration, or measure. So this afternoon, shortly, I will be speaking with them to delve more into this very issue. What do we need to do? What do we look at in the creation of these new regions? And Chapter 4, where a commission of inquiry appointed under clause 2 or 3 of this article finds there is a need and a substantial demand for the creation, alteration, or measure referred to either in those of the clauses, it shall recommend to the President that a referendum be held specifying the issues to be determined by the referendum and places where the referendum should be held. So this afternoon, I have been joined in the studio by Dr. Ojo-Osai, and we're looking at the creation of the new regions. Good afternoon, and thanks for your time, Doctor.
Good afternoon, Wendy.
Now, is this process that simple as we heard the President talk about?
Thank you very much, and let me say good afternoon to our viewers. The process is not all that simple. You will realize that if we have to start with a petition or a demand from the people, they've submitted the demand, it's gone to the President. The President would then have to refer it to the Council of State. It's gone to the Council of State. They've given the President the relevant advice. Now it is at the Commission of Inquiry stage. Now let me say that the Commission of Inquiry has a lot of work to do. As their name implies, they are going to inquire into the petition. One, they will have to check whether there is even the need or a substantial demand. Now, if there is a need and substantial demand, then they can recommend to the President that the President should go ahead. If they do their inquiry and the inquiry reveals that there is no need, there is no substantial demand, they can advise the President not to proceed further. So it can be truncated at that level. But then if they realize that there is some merits in the petition, then they will recommend to the President. Then the President would, on the advice of the Commission, then refer it to the Electoral Commission for a referendum to be held. There is another obligation on the Commission of Inquiry. The Commission of Inquiry should also specify the matters to be put to referendum. So they should specify those who are in the areas of referendum. Now, once they do that, the Electoral Commission will then have to go ahead, conduct the elections. There's another standard that is to be met. During the election or during the referendum, you will need 50% of the qualified voters in that particular region or the affected regions to cast their vote in that particular referendum. And if they cast their vote, you need about 80% of that 50% to vote yes. So it is not as simple as people...
But following up on what you said, do Ghanaians even understand this whole process? Or you think there should be much more education before we look at the team proper?
I think there should be much more education. The President indicated that the ministry responsible for this regional creation has started sensitizing and consulting a number of institutions, including the Regional House of Chiefs. I will urge them to continue to deepen the understanding, to deepen the sensitization, because it's not only the Regional House of Chiefs that would vote. The affected people in that particular, in those regions, the 4 affected regions, need to be seriously sensitized, and I will urge them to bring NCCE on board in this matter.
Now the team look at resources and human and natural and advise the president to divide it. Does that also entail in their description of what exactly they're supposed to do? Definitely,
it does. If I understand your question, is it about the composition of the members of the Commission of Inquiry? I think they have people of diverse background, very experienced people. And I also think that the terms of reference given to them under CI 105 resonates what is in the Constitution. So if they are able to live up to expectations and work within the 6 months, I'm very positive that they'll be able to deliver on their mandate.
And one might say that these are new regions that will be created. Should they be at par with the old regions we already have?
I think we should understand one thing in this country. The Constitution mentions creation, alteration, or measure. There may be new regions, but the new regions will come as a result of altering existing regions. These regions they will be at par administratively and legally and politically at par with the old regions. However, resource-wise, they may not be at par. So we need to put in place short to medium-term strategies of resourcing them infrastructure-wise and other things that they need to bring them at par with the other existing regions.
All right, well, thank you so much, Dr. Eric Odro-Sai, and he is at the Institute of Local Governance Studies. He is a local governance expert and a Dean of Graduate Studies. Thanks for your time. Thank you. You're still watching Midday Live. And the National Digital Property Addressing System, expected to make easy to find locations and boost emergency services delivery, has been launched by the President. Now, the National Digital Property Addressing System will also aid government policies on development and planning.
Designed by a Ghanaian firm, Vocacom, in partnership with Ghana Post, the system is expected to provide an effective means of addressing every location in the country, including underdeveloped parcels of land, using an information technology application app. The system is also expected to reduce costs in doing business.
After downloading the app, all you need to do is to stand in front of your house to activate your address. It doesn't have to be a huge house. Anything which is 5 meters square can have an address. Once you register your property, your information will be stored in the national database that will be managed by Ghana Post. A change of address notification to Ghana Post will be required once you move from your registered address.
President Akufo-Addo said the system will aid government vision for formalizing the economy.
Every land or property will be assigned a unique identifier. This will facilitate improved ownership data and unique identification of properties and persons. A proper addressing of properties will help ensure efficient delivery of services for economic development. With the ability to identify clearly the location of businesses and persons, we will be empowered with new ways of doing business. The power to access information and the ability to do instant validation and verification will make many business ventures that were previously unviable immediately viable and ultimately sustainable for the future.
The new system is expected to be a major turnaround for a country that was last mapped in 1974 and lacks efficient addressing system, which has become an impediment to development and planning.
Let's go back to the creation of new regions, and the Minister for Regional Reorganization, Dan Botchwey, says the inauguration of the commission sets the tone for his ministry to kickstart processes to create the new regions. He spoke to my colleague, Nana Kwekudria.
But how effective will this be? Because according to the president, people are demanding themselves. How effective will this and help the rapid development of the
Article 5 Chapter 2 of the Constitution talks about territories of Ghana, and Article 5 explains clearly how we should go about it. And now that the president has gone through the route of the petitions he has received, instead of he himself taking the initiative, this one he acted based on the petitions he has raised, and that's Article 5.2. And so it shows the direction that you should go, and it says that you should appoint a commission of inquiry. Even though you receive the petitions, let them still go into it to determine that there's a substantial need for the creation of regions. So it's very important.
What should Ghanaians expect now?
No, we want to believe that, as you know, very eminent people in the country, they will do very diligent work, and based on the recommendations of the commission, then the president will follow through. If the committee does recommend that, yes, there's some social demand, therefore they should go ahead, as the president stated, then it will be referred to the Electoral Commission for a referendum. And you got the threshold, 50% turnout, 80% should say they agree, out of the 50% will turn out. So it's something, as Mr. President rightly said, demand-driven. The people will have to decide. There's no way anybody can impose it on the people.
You mentioned the structural of the regions. I mean, the way it is formed. I mean, when this is done, it will enhance rapid development. Yes. How critical is this for the government?
Like you said, from 1902, we have 3 regions. We didn't stay there. By independence, we have 5 regions. And from 57 to 83, we added other 5 regions. But since 83, about almost 34 years, there have been that demand all this while. So this is an opportunity to go through it, to study the demands and see if the people really want it. Then they will express it to a positive vote in the referendum. It will bring government closer to the people, and it certainly help accelerate development.
How effective would this be in the term of access?
I want to believe that, you see, the Constitution in Article 5 made provision for this, that there might be a time when people may make such a demand. If they do so, go through this process. And so we thank Mr. President that he stayed to the Constitution, and that is why we are following through the process, and it will certainly enhance development.
The Constitution says.
Now to education, and 3 teacher unions have given government 1-week ultimatum to address issues concerning their salary arrears. They are the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, and the Coalition of Concerned Teachers.
In a letter dated 17th October 2017, addressed to the Finance Minister, the teachers regretted that their concerns raised have been left unaddressed to date. According to the 3 unions, in the meeting with the Finance Ministry, stakeholders agreed in principle to commence the validation exercise of teachers for payment of salary arrears on September 11, 2017, for which notices were sent to members across the country. In addition to the resolution of the meeting, it was agreed that 65,013 forms were to be validated in 88 days. However, the teachers' unions say they are amazed that 1 month on, no action has been taken to commence the exercise, and they see this as a deliberate ploy and betrayal of good faith in dealing with the matter. The statement from the 3 teachers' unions added that the circumstances in which we find ourselves, it will be extremely difficult for leadership to restrain its members from expressing their anger in forms that may affect the sanctity of the school environment. The unions have therefore urged government to address their concerns within the stipulated period, or they will be forced to use other channels to seek redress.
So the Ashanti region and Formina IT Amadia Senior High School has closed down following the fire outbreak that destroyed the girls' dormitory. Now, this is the second time in the year that the school has been hit by fire. Girls' dormitory, prompting authorities to sanction an early midterm for the school. Here's a report by Benjamin Edu.
It's the second fire disaster in a space of 5 weeks and the 4th incident in the last 1 year, with many suspecting foul play. The new headmaster of the school, who reported few weeks ago, is confronted with this challenge. According to our sources, the fire started on Tuesday afternoon during classes and consumed about 2 rooms, which accommodated 90 girls. Property including chop boxes, mattresses, computers and others were completely burnt. Headmaster of the school, Abdullah Ayub, said authorities concluded on early midterms after assessing the extent of damage.
We were to go on midterms in 2 weeks' time, but we have rather decided to let them go home because Some of the students are also traumatized, and we want them to go home, have some rest, so that we'll put measures in place. And we are hoping that within the next week or two, we'll be able to restore the place so that students can come for academic work to also continue.
He appealed to the government and stakeholders in education to come to their aid.
Next, we have medical notes, and this afternoon, clinical psychologist Nino Tidia explains that the cause and possible ways of preventing depression.
There are a whole range of things that can cause depression. First and foremost, we know that certain brain chemicals, we call them neurotransmitters, but these chemicals are also responsible for our mood, our emotions, and sometimes there's an imbalance in these chemicals, and this can cause depression, right, or account for some types of depression. We also know that a person's life experiences and the feedback they get from the world can also lead to a more reactive form of depression, where I'm now depressed in reaction or in response to the situations I find myself exposed to. We also know that there is a genetic or hereditary component, where we know that a person with close relatives who have had depression is more likely to develop a depression. So we have, let me say, a mix of biological, psychological, social factors that can lead or predispose a person to depression.
We'll now head to Togo and look at the situation then. Security and Civil Protection Minister in Togo says 4 people were killed on Wednesday in clashes between security forces and demonstrators. Colonel Yak Damihan said 1 person was shot dead and around 60 others arrested in the capital, Lomé. Another 3 died of gunshot wounds in the second biggest city, Sokode. Opposition activists have been demonstrating since August against Nyasimbe's administration and say a constitutional reform he has proposed will allow him rule until 2030. President Faure Nyasimbe succeeded his late father, Nyasimbe Iyadema, in 2005. And this afternoon, I have been joined via phone. I'll be speaking to Professor Vladimir Enchidanso. He's the Director and Dean of Economic Affairs of the Ghana Armed Forces Command Staff College. And he's also an international relations expert. Good afternoon, Prof, and thanks for your time.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to your viewers.
Now, the situation in Togo seems to be escalating. On Wednesday, 4 people were killed. Would you say the situation has gotten out of control?
One way or the other, yes, it looks as though the result of the opposition is to create chaos and ungovernability and force the government out of power. And that alone would also actually tax its toll on the people, because the gendarmes will actually come after them and we'll see that kind of chaos. But nowhere else have we seen that kind of autocracy leading to a peaceful kind of resolution. In several places, in Libya, in Sudan, in other places, the death toll will be an indicator that things have gone very bad. And I think both opposition and government will have to sit up. And as I've always said, nobody should think that with 10 people dead or 15 people dead, some other country is going to bring troops to stem the tide or any other thing like that. Until things have gone extremely bad, that is the nature of the game. Until people have died and died and died, you don't expect ECOWAS to come in, you don't expect, that is the game.
But does that make it rise? Because my next question would have been, do you think that ECOWAS as a regional bloc has done enough?
Well, I think we are measuring enough in terms of the troops' presence. No. By this time, they are talking to the opposition, they are still talking to the government, and I don't think the telephone lines will die down. Ghana may be talking on the quiet and that kind of stuff. That's the best you can do. To send troops, there should have been the signs that the government is no more capable of containing the situation, then the ECOWAS will have to come in. But that will take months. Mobilization at the UN level even takes not less than 6 months, let alone ECOWAS.
But at this initial stages, do you see the government being able to handle the situation as it should?
Well, whatever government would do is to ask the opposition to come down to the table. And everywhere, from the US to any other democratic country, when the opposition is resilient on creating chaos, the government has a right to protect life and property. Unfortunately, in the protection of life and property, they rather take off lives and destroy property. That is the catch-22 kind of situation we have in international relations.
Now,
so yes.
Sorry if I cut you there, but going back to ECOWAS, do you think that for Gnassingbé's position at ECOWAS is compromising the regional group such that they are unable to even intervene? Yes, you have explained clearly that if it should get out of hand, that is when they will even come in with troops. But does it contribute anyway?
His position has no influence on whether ECOWAS should go in or not. One way or the other, it is the secretariat, or what we call the commission. The commission is monitoring by now, talking to other heads of state and whatnot. And if in the wisdom of the commission, the heads of state should be summoned, it doesn't depend on the chairman. They will summon the heads of state at a very high summit for them to take a decision.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I have been speaking to Professor Vladimir Antwi-Danso, who is the Director and Dean of Academic Affairs, Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College. You're still watching Media Live, but we're still focusing on the Togo issue. And this afternoon, I have in the studio Chris Agombia. He is a Togolese national who resides here in Ghana. Yes. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome.
Now, apart from what you see on international media and even locally, what have your friends been telling you, or your relations there?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to seize the opportunity and on behalf of all Togolese in this country, in Ghana here, we would like to extend our appreciation to all what the government is doing to protect and cover us in this country. And also honor those lives that are lost yesterday during their protests. We just want to honor them so that what they are doing, the fight, the protest they are doing peacefully will not be in vain.
You sound very emotional this afternoon.
Very emotional, because it's very touching when you see pictures, when you see our brothers and sisters just being killed by bullets. It's not good.
Do you think that the opposition should end its protests?
The opposition can't end the protest. It's not even about the opposition. It's about the people. The people are now taking their lives into their own hands, because it's like they have their backs against the wall. They can't do anything again. All they have to do is to fight back.
Or do they wait for the president's tenure to expire? Then life moves to normalcy there for them.
You know something? The then President Eyadema took power in 1967. 25 years down the line, we organized the first referendum that brought the 1992 Constitution. And that Constitution has never been used. In that Constitution, it states clearly that the diaspora will have to participate in the vote. In that 92 Constitution, it clearly stipulates that there will be 2 terms and 2 rounds. And it has never been done. The father was on power 13 years later. Now the son has come. It's now in his 3rd term. What can we do? Have we not patient enough? We don't think the opposition is now fighting. It's the people fighting.
Now, one might argue that you sound emotional. You're in Ghana, you're not in Togo, you're not even feeling the heat. So why make noise about it then?
It's not about being in Ghana here. You see your relatives, your sisters, your brothers being killed. You go emotional. You certainly go emotional.
Do you intend going there?
Why not?
When do you intend going there?
Why not? It's my country. I was born there. And everything, my family, everybody is there. I have all the history, my history is there. So if nothing goes right in that country, I cannot be at peace here.
When last were you there, and when do you intend going there?
Actually, I frequently go there to see the family and come back.
So when last were you there?
I think that somewhere 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
When next are you going there?
We are into the fight. So I can go anytime. Anybody in the diaspora can go anytime.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I have been speaking to Chris Agombia. He's a Togolese national who resides here in Ghana. You're still watching Midday Live. Thanks for staying. Some LPG gas filling station operators say they're yet to receive any notice of shutdown for a nationwide maintenance work as directed by the LPG Marketers Association. Our checks revealed some stations were operating.
The LPG Marketing Companies Association served notice of shutting down all LPG stations across the country from Wednesday to undertake what they describe as a major maintenance work nationwide. We first checked from World Gas Station along the La Beach Road. Here, 15,000 kilograms of gas was available to customers. You can tell that workers are briskly cashing in as customers keep trooping to fill their gas cylinders. Information we are picking is that there's been no sort of announcement for them to shut down for maintenance. It is, however, unclear if the move is a deliberate attempt to frustrate the supply of gas, considering the association's position on the rolling out of the cylinder redistribution policy by government. This is our fourth and final roving check for the day in terms of looking out for LPG filling stations who might have shut down following the notice set to be served by the LPG Marketing Companies Association. We went through Sim Oil where there was a total shutdown, reason being that they don't have gas or there's shortage. They're still awaiting delivery on their gas. Also, we visited the Goil LPG filling station where the authorities there were still cashing in, brisk business ongoing, more customers trooping in, and they are also yet to receive any directive from the association. Here are the Go Gas LPG filling station. The numbers seem to have increased. They might have heard the news outside that most of or all of the LPG gas filling stations will be shutting down for maintenance. The authorities who declined to speak on camera are telling me that the numbers have increased in terms of what they usually see on a normal day. In a telephone conversation with the public relations officer of the LPG Marketers Association, Bernard Oredu, he indicated notices will be served to those still operating.
The message is now going down to those who were not at the emergency meeting yesterday. So I'm sure probably by close of day today, early morning tomorrow, all our members would have complied by the resolution of the association. And if should any of our members or flout the direct for the resolution of the entire members, we have laid down rules to take the person through.
We are waiting to see in coming days what would happen to these LPG gas filling stations if really the notice will be carried out as expected, as said by the association. From Kaukudi here, reporting, my name is Nanekia Mensah Brampa, TV3.
And the Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana, Duncan Amor, joins me via phone to talk a lot more about this going concern. Good afternoon, Duncan.
Good afternoon, Wendy. Good afternoon to your viewers.
Now, COPEC, you are for consumer safety. What is your understanding of the repair works on the LPG dispensing facilities?
Wendy, let me beg for restraint from the LPG Marketing Association. We indeed cannot close our eyes to the fact that they have genuine issues that the government must listen to as a matter of necessity. But we would beg for restraint that we all don't get punished for this standoff with government under the pretext of undertaking an audit or some maintenance work on all LPG stations across the country. We will beg, indeed, that they at least look at the millions of Ghanaians who depend on them for the LPG products daily and rescind their decision immediately. We do not think that for whatever it is worth, that the authorities have refused to listen to them, the poor consumer at the end should suffer for all of this. We will beg for a lot of restraint. It is still very fluid. I have visited some few gas stations this morning, and they all seem to be complying with this directive, which fully leaves those of us, the vulnerable consumers, in the middle of this crossfire between the government itself and the LPG marketing companies. We believe that there could be a solution to their issues, and we would impress on government to at least give them a hearing and attempt solving some of those issues that they have genuinely raised. We would beg again that they do not punish all of us.
Now, in talking about solution to this very issue, Duncan, like you have mentioned that some aren't operating and they're supposed to go by it strictly. Of course, you mentioned that this shouldn't happen in this very way. Have you been able to speak to the association? And you also touched on government. Have you been able to interact with government on their response to this very concern?
What we know, and in fact, together with some other concerned civil society platforms, we intend meeting with the association, although we have a fair idea what the critical issues are. If you recall, following from the atomic gas explosion, there was this cabinet directive that LPG is going to now move from the current model we have to the recirculation model, and some of the directives went further to express that the NPA have clarified that some of the LPG stations will be shut down completely. Others may be also allowed to even operate selling only auto gas. Now, we believe that the solution couldn't have been found in that directive. There is still a bit more dialogue necessary, even if we are to go by the recirculation program and whatever challenges it might also come with. But we cannot use the atomic gas explosion solely as a basis to kill businesses that we, from the NPA down to EPA, town and country planning, through to the government itself, have duly licensed and allowed to go to the banks to borrow money to set up these stations.
All right, thank you so much, Duncan Amoah, for...
Otherwise, there will be more pressure.
Thank you, Duncan Amoah, for your time. I've been speaking to Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, Ghana. Now, residents at Risk Junction near Medina in Accra are demanding the immediate relocation of gas filling station following what they described as poor safety standards. The agitation over the siting of Lone's gas station is a result of the Atomic Junction gas explosion, which claimed 7 lives and injured more than 150 others.
The residents recounted the Atomic Junction gas explosion and expressed concern over the location of the Lone's gas filling station. They claimed more than 8 tankers offload gas daily at the station without safety precautions.
There is only a wall between the gas and myself. This house, we cannot even light charcoal. When you are cooking in the kitchen and you don't shut the window, you see the fire going out. You cannot sit outside and enjoy normal bliss. No. We've done everything in our power to get these people out, but it seems like they are not going.
The gas is poisonous. We are inhaling it. In the night, they won't allow us to sleep. In the night before they come and discharge gas, when they are discharging the gas like this, you hear noise. 6 hours, you can't sleep.
This place actually happens to be the head office of Lone Star, and it came to meet us, and we are saying that enough is enough. The owner does not even live here, and we inhale all the fumes and the complications associated with it.
The police prevented the aggrieved residents from vandalizing property. Also in the vicinity is a mechanic shop and a car park. Behind the filling station is a fast-developing slum.
Initially, I wanted to occupy the gas station as well as the frontage, but we said that would be detrimental to their health because should anything happen, it will be disastrous.
Efforts to get a response from the owner of the filling station was unsuccessful.
That's all for business, but we have sports next. Do stay.
Right, good afternoon. This is the Midday Live here on TV3. Now it's time to do sports. My name is Yao Ofosulabi. Now, this was supposed to be the crowning moment for the Ghana Premier League, a league supposedly so competitive that nothing is decided till the final day. Aduana Stars won the title last week, and on the final weekend, there are at least 5 clubs in danger of getting relegated with 2 slots at stake, but the build-up has been marred by arrests over betting concerns and allegations of bribery and match fixing.
The high stakes has led to high maneuvers according to club owners and coaches. Tema Youth coach says things are so bad, nothing a coach does really matters. Then there is the fear that betting could wreck the games. Fears are growing that there are betting syndicates conniving with club officials, players and coaches in organizing these corrupt practices. Accra Folk Operations Manager Joshua Akwa was arrested in connection with an alleged match-fixing investigation and was later released. Communications Director of the Ghana Football Association says the FA have not been informed or invited to play any role in the matter, but as organizers of the league, they are following the story keenly.
Officially, we've not been notified in writing, but as a responsible organization, we followed media report, and we ourselves want to be engaged in the matter to get to the bottom of the issue, what the details are in sort of it. Whilst the police also undertake their investigations, we'll also be interested in knowing the details of the case. And if there are any actions or any action we have to take, we'll be swift in dealing with it in that light.
Another issue the GFA is keeping an eye on is allegations of match fixing, bribes to referees and other accusations from football administrators. The vice chairman of the Ghana Referees Association, Joe Debra, insists the GFA are not biting enough when these allegations are made.
By now, the FA Ethics Committee should have called some people before them. But I'm surprised some people were not called. Like what one Mr. Gadot said, what I've heard Mr. Indum too have said, and the rest all. All those people should have been called upon because we are 1,000% sure that anybody who complains that referees collect bribe is also a bribe giver. If you have not given some before, how do you know and how do you say referees collect bribe? So I think those people who have gone on there that referees have been collecting bribe and the rest, I am surprised the FA sit down without inviting any of us.
Those allegations and betting arrest threatens the credibility and integrity of the Ghana League, but the GFA is confident it has it under control.
We had a seminar for clubs at the Institute of Professional Studies in the top 2 tiers of Ghana football, and I warned them about the dangers of these things in football, and it's not an issue to the preserve of Ghana football alone. So as a preemptive measure, we had a course with the clubs about it.
Also on to our next story now. We are going now to the UEFA Champions League, where Manchester United, Barcelona and Juventus all won yesterday in emphatic fashion. Chelsea, though, could not win. They drew 3-3 with AS Roma at home. Edin Dzeko leading the Roma charge there. But as you can see on your screen now, Benfica United 1-0. Marcus Rashford getting the goal there for Man United there. CSK Moscow against Basel also losing at home. The Anderlecht were beaten by Paris Saint-Germain by 4 goals 2-0. Kylian Mbappe and Edinson Cavani and Neymar were all on the score sheets for PSG. Bayern Munich also beating Celtic by 3-0. Jupp Heynckes' first game in charge in the Champions League and is off to a flyer by 3-0. Then Karabakh also held Atletico Madrid to a 0-0 draw. That game was a big shock for many football fans. And then Chelsea against Roma, the top liner yesterday ended 3-3. Barcelona against Olympiacos ended 3-1. And Juventus also beating Sporting Lisbon there by 2-1. But to some more news, and Antonio Conte has told Jose Mourinho to stop talking about Chelsea after the Manchester United boss suggested the Italian was crying about his injury situation. Meanwhile, Manchester United manager Jose Mourinho has hit back at his critics following the Red Devils' 1-0 win over Benfica in the UEFA Champions League on Wednesday, telling reporters being a strong defensive team is not a crime. Let's do some boxing now. Well, undefeated cruiserweight Brahima Kamoko, aka Bukom Banku, is predicting a 6th round knockout ahead of his epic contest against undefeated super middleweight Basti Samera. But Basti insists he will teach him a lesson and retire him from active boxing. They spoke to my colleague Naneku Amankwa during their media workout and fans interaction at the Bukom Boxing Arena here in Accra.
I know that Basti is talking too much. So I want to prove to the Ghanaians that I'm African Mayweather. By the grace of God, I will stop him, Rancis.
I know Bukom Banku as a comedian. I don't know him as a fighter. So I'm here to prove to Ghanaians that boxing is a gentleman. I'm here to take the crown from him.
The Bukom Boxing Arena was charged as the two boxers made their way to the venue. Bukom Banku and Basti Samera held separate media workouts at the Bukom Boxing Arena ahead of their no-title Cruiserweight Championship this Saturday. Samera was the first to punch the bags before his opponent Bukom Banku took over to show how ready he is for the bout. Looking back at his 29 wins with 22 knockouts, Bukom Banku insists his opponent can only last 6 rounds.
I'm the boxing graduate in Ghana. I'm boxing Ronaldo. The way the Ghanaians they talk that and this is a man who can beat me. I want to tell all the Ghanaians that Coco no seller fight. Yeah, this fight is animals are kingdom. Kolua fight. So I want to invite everybody to come and see that I'm African Royal Mayweather, no shouting like a Mikitis and the empty Coco. Basti Samera is the naked boss. I will stop him.
The younger Basti Samera, who comes into this fight with 6 wins, 4 knockouts and 1 draw, believes he is resolute enough to take Bukom Banku through 12 rounds of boxing.
I want to tell my fans that they should be ready for a party. You know, after the fight, after Saturday night till Sunday, it's all party all the way out. I'm going to beat him up, 100%.
The mega bout is scheduled for October 21st at the Bukom Boxing Arena here in Accra. We have an interesting bout on our hands this Saturday at the Bukom Boxing Arena. My name is Yao Fosulabi, and that's how we end the sports news here. There's more sports later on News 360. Up next, we take entertainment news.
All right, we have entertainment now. An award-winning Ghanaian musician, Yaya, says aspiring musicians should aim to be well-grounded in music. Yaya disclosed one of the secrets to her survival in the music industry is her ability to play several musical instruments. She was speaking on 3FM's mid-morning show, Urban Blend, with Solace Usquati.
Singing, performing, playing the piano and the guitar. These are things Yaya does, and does very well. For up-and-coming artists, Yaya says learning how to do things for yourself is key to your survival and makes the usually difficult transition into the industry a bit easier.
I wasn't born with a guitar in my hand. As an artist, you should be able to learn how to put your thoughts together in like melody or in music form. I'm not saying it's bad to get people to do stuff for you, play for you, because I have a band, but when I have to perform on my own, I can boldly pick a guitar and then do something.
A VGMA 2012 award winner, she commented on the perceived pressure on female artists to settle down.
the ideal Ghanaian woman would get married quite early and then have kids. It's not really about just your career. You know, you have to find the right partner. I mean, if it's going to take you 3 years to do that, please, it's not a race. Take your time, do it right, you know, so that you don't have any regrets later. Personally, I wouldn't want to get married and get divorced.
She also spoke about her new single, Life, which she premiered on October 17, 2017.
Life is basically talking about our life and the challenges we deal with and how life can be quite gruesome to us, but the whole core of the message, or the message of the song, is no matter how hard life comes at us, in the end things are going to fall in place.
Oh, life doesn't explain anything to you.
Well, on that soothing note, we end Midday Live. I am Wendy Lai. Enjoy the rest of our programs. Good afternoon.